Chapter 51, Stillbirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ziyi was going to try going to the Sunset Forest. As for DouluoDalu, the future owner of the Ice and Fire Eyes, he must not have encountered anyone with the Ice and Fire Eyes at this time, because DouluoDalu's son DongI'm is only 20 years old now. DouluoDalu had to find the Ice and Fire Eyes after DongI'm died, thus suppressing his own toxins. His son DongI'm was poisoned to death by the poison of his own martial spirit, the green scale snake emperor, because he failed to wait until DouluoDalu discovered the existence of the Ice and Fire Eyes. So DouluoDalu only discovered the Ice and Fire Eyes after his son died. The time of DongI'm's death will not be until after DongI'm is born at the earliest. It's still many years before DongI'm's birth. So at this time, DouluoDalu must have not encountered the Ice and Fire Eyes. But before heading to Sunset Forest, Ziyi still had something to make sure of, that is whether your invisibility charm is useful to the soul beast. Ziyi asked Yuguan to help test it before. After he used the invisibility charm, as long as he didn't make any noise, even Yuguan couldn't find him. It was this test result that gave Ziyi the courage to venture into the Sunset Forest, but before that, he had to test it on the soul beast. After all, some soul beasts don't find their prey with their eyes. Very close to the north of Wuhun city, there is a forest of novice soul beasts that are kept in captivity. Ziyi set off after a little preparation. If he only left for a day or two, it would be no problem. Now Ziyi no longer needs to accompany Bibi every day, as long as she provides her with enough purifying charms. Now Ziyi can make talismans that can be stored for a week. Besides, after Bibi's training and study got on the right track, Xuanji's control over them was also very loose. As long as they completed the set goals, he rarely taught in person. In the original work, Bibi still has a lot of time to fall in love with Yu Shaojiang. And she has never been discovered. It is obvious that Xuanji trusts Bibi very much and has a very loose supervision on her. Ziyi had a token given by Xuanji. Although it was not the same papal decree as Bibi, it was enough for Ziyi to use. With the token in hand, Ziyi easily entered the Soul Beast Forest. However, a few hours later, Ziyi retreated from it in a state of embarrassment. Hey, the late emperor died halfway through his business venture. The plan to go to Sunset Forest was stillborn. The invisibility charm cannot avoid all the soul beasts. If I go to the Sunset Forest by myself, I will be courting death. It seems we have to find another way. That when Ziyi came out, he looked a little depressed, but he also felt relieved. After all, even if the invisibility charm was effective against soul beasts, Ziyi felt that it was still too dangerous to venture into the Sunset Forest alone. Now, there is no need to think about creating a unique Sunset Forest. But when Ziyi's original plan to create the Sunset Forest was stillborn, inside the Haotian Academy founded by the Haotian sect. I want to inform you that starting from today, my sister will join our Haotian team. You should all know that my sister has been able to practice for a long time, and the Wuhun Rui ring is as powerful as the world's most powerful auxiliary soul, the 7 treasure glazed tile tower. With the addition of my sister, our Haotian team will only be stronger. The champion of the Soul Master competition in 3 years' time will definitely be ours. On this day, Tang Hao brought his sister Tang Yuehua to Haotian Academy and directly took her to join the Haotian team. Tang Hao wants his little sister to join the Haotian team to run in together, cultivate a tacit understanding, and prepare for the Soul Master competition 3 years later. Ever since Tang Yuehua was able to practice, he didn't know whether it was because of his accumulated experience, but his practice speed in the first year was astonishingly fast. Tang Yuehua was promoted to 6 levels in the first year, 5 levels in the second year, and 4 levels in the third year. Talent realized perfectly. Today, Tang Yuehua is already a level 27 Great Soul Master. The extra 2 levels are the improvements brought by 2 high-quality soul rings, although the level 27 Great Spirit Master is still a little weak. Tang Yuehua's auxiliary spirit is extremely effective, so there is no problem in joining the team. There were originally no auxiliary soul masters in the Clear Sky team. They were all battle soul masters. They were still the same Clear Sky Hammer Spirit team, following the extreme style. Haotian Academy's team has always refused to join outsiders, especially Tang Hao, but if Tang Yuehua joins, then there will be no problem. In this way, even if one soul sect member is removed and replaced with Tang Yuehua, who is only level 27, the overall strength will be much stronger than before. What's more, Tang Yuehua's strength is still growing rapidly. In 3 years, he might be able to break through level 40 and become a soul sect. Hello everyone, please take good care of me in the future. After Tang Hao introduced him, Tang Yuehua walked up and said hello with a smile. She is also very happy to be able to join the team. It's just a pity that my cousin Bailu can't join the Haotian team, and not to mention her cousin Bailu, even the other younger generations of the 4 major single attribute families, no one has ever been able to join the Haotian team. Haotian Academy can enter, but Haotian team can't even think about it. If members of the 4 major single attribute families want to participate in the Soul Master competition, they can only go out and join other high-level Soul Master academies, and then find a way to enter the academy team. Bailu has indeed joined an advanced Soul Master academy and successfully entered the academy team. It's just that the team is not strong enough, so it can only participate in the Soul Master competition. It is impossible to achieve good results. Naturally, the rest of the team expressed their warm welcome to Tang Yuehua's joining. Ever since I learned that Tang Yuehua could cultivate, and learned about Tang Yuehua's cultivation speed in recent years, and the powerful auxiliary effect, the attitude of the people of the Haotian sect towards Tang Yuehua had already changed, and everyone became much more enthusiastic. Of course, I can't say that it was not good before, but it was inevitable that I would pity the other person with strange eyes and feel sorry for the other person. However, such changes made Tang Yuehua not very happy. She was indeed very happy at first, but after a long time, she understood that it was because she became useful that everyone in the sect began to pay attention to her. Before, even if she ran away from home, no one would care. Even her father was like this. But now she was strictly required to practice seriously and basically didn't have much time to have fun by herself. She only hoped that her second brother Tang Hao would not be so strict with her after arriving at Haotian College. Chapter 52 The Ghost at Moon Pass. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Teacher. This is a fragment of a picture I found in the library. It seems to have the fairy herbs that Teacher Yueguan told me about. Teacher, I want to go look for it. Half a month later, Ziyi found Qian Xuanji and took out a simple residual picture. What kind of fairy herb? Qian Xuanji was slightly surprised, then took the residual picture in Ziyi's hand and looked at it. There is a vaguely red and blue pool painted in the center of the residual picture, with several plants on it, and it seems to be emitting a faint light. On the back of the remaining picture, there is a fallen sun. It's the fairy grass that Teacher Yueguan told me about. It's a treasure that has the potential to improve my talent. Teacher, I must go look for it. Ziyi looked at Qian Xuanji and said again, with a firm tone, yes. After knowing that he could not go to the Sunset Forest alone, Ziyi directly chose to use the power of Wuhun Palace. After all, he is a disciple of the Pope of Wuhun Palace. If he has the power, it would be a waste if he doesn't use it. He just needs to figure out how to know the existence of fairy grass. In the end, Ziyi thought of cheating and made a fake treasure map, and then said that the remaining map was found in the Wuhun Palace library. It doesn't matter whether others believe it or not, as long as he believes it. You found this in the library. Seeing Ziyi's determination, Qian Xuanji picked up the broken picture again, looked at it, and then asked. Yes, teacher. Ziyi affirmed. The remaining pictures have been altered and look very primitive. How are you going to find it based on this incomplete picture? There's not even a location or any words on it. When Qian Xuanji saw that Ziyi was sure, he didn't have too many doubts. He had never read half of the many books in the library. It was normal that there were some things he didn't know. Moreover, this residual picture has no value in his opinion. Fairy herbs. How powerful is it? Can it really improve talent? The name is so lofty, it's more like the guy from Yueguan blew it out. It's that guy who loves flowers as much as his life, and he just respects some of the best flowers and plants as immortals. In his opinion, these are just Ziyi's obsessions. As a disciple, I want to improve my own talent too much, so even if there is just a little bit of hope, I don't want to let it go. Regarding this, he could still understand Ziyi. Teacher, the back of this picture shows a falling sun. Isn't this the setting sun? There happens to be a sunset forest within the Tiando Empire. So I suspect that the location in this residual map is in the Sunset Forest. When Ziyi heard Qian Xuanji's words, he immediately started to analyze them. Qian Xuanji's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this. Is this the meaning behind the broken picture? It feels like a bit of a joke, but it makes sense if you think about it carefully. In this case, teacher, just send someone to search there for you. Although he still didn't believe that the address of the residual map was really Sunset Forest, nor did he believe that there were any treasures there, Qian Xuanji was still willing to help Ziyi. Teacher, I want to find it myself, Ziyi said quickly. Although Qian Xuanji would give him the fairy grass after letting others find it, Ziyi still wanted to go there in person. That way we can better grasp the initiative and eat the best ice fire immortal grass directly after we go there, so Ziyi said this very firmly. But you are only level 20 now. How can Qian Xuanji trust Ziyi to go? Teacher, let Teacher Yueguan and Ghost Contra go with me. With the protection of the two of them, I will definitely be fine. And Teacher Yueguan is more familiar with those top-grade fairy grass. Hearing Qian Xuanji's hesitation, Ziyi quickly made suggestions. Originally, he wanted Qian Xuanji to take him with him, but when Qian Xuanji didn't mention it, he had no choice but to name Yuguan and Guimei. If you have the protection of two Contras, Yuguan and Guimei, going to Sunset Forest is enough, and through the past few years of contact, he and Yueguan have a pretty good relationship. Ziyi still approves of Yuguan and Guimei, the performance of DouluoDalu and DongI'm. The original work is very good, and they have always been loyal to Wuhun Palace. Yuguan and Ghost. Hearing Ziyi's words, Qian Xuanji pondered for a moment, and then nodded slightly. If there are two of them protecting you, there is really no problem. Yuguan and Guimei are both soul Douluo, and they also possess martial soul fusion skills. Even if they encounter a title Douluo, they will definitely have no problem protecting Ziyi. Moreover, Yuguan is indeed the most familiar with flowers and plants, so he is indeed the most suitable candidate. You really want to go? In the end, Qian Xuanji could only ask Ziyi again seriously. Yes, teacher. Hearing Qian Xuanji's words, Ziyi was so excited. This means Qian Xuanji agrees. Sure enough, I was too conservative in the past. If I wanted to find fairy grass, I could just use the power of Wuhun Palace. He is now the disciple of the Pope of Wuhun Palace. Well, since you want to go, then I'll ask Yuguan and Guimei to go with you. Seeing Ziyi's look, Qian Xuanji nodded and agreed. In his opinion, no matter what, it's okay to let Ziyi go to look for it. But the teacher still advises you not to have too much hope, so as not to be disappointed in the end. The treasure that improves talent is not so easy to obtain. But in the end, Qian Xuanji still reminded Ziyi, worried that Ziyi would be disappointed if he couldn't find it in the end. Yes, teacher. I just want to look for it. Ziyi suppressed his excitement and quickly agreed. Qian Xuanji, well, when are you going to go? The sooner the better, Ziyi said excitedly. Okay, then I'll call Yueguan and Guimei. Seeing Ziyi's impatient look, Qian Xuanji smiled helplessly, and then asked someone to call Yueguan and Guimei. Yueguan and Guimei have always been his right-hand men, and they are indeed still in Wuhun City at this time. Ziyi was waiting in the Pope's palace, and half an hour later, Yueguan and Guimei came. Your Highness. Your Highness. After the two arrived, they saluted Qian Xuanji. Your Highness. Of course, they did not forget Ziyi next to them. Although Ziyi was neither a saint nor a saint, she was also a disciple of the Pope, so the people in the Spirit Hall also respectfully addressed Ziyi as His Highness, just like addressing Bibi Dong as the saint. You are here, Yueguan, Guimei. This time I asked you to come to protect Xiaoyi to the Sunset Forest. Qian Xuanji saw Yueguan and Guimei coming and explained the situation directly. Yes, Your Highness. We will definitely protect Your Highness. Yueguan and Guimei naturally agreed without any objection. Xiaoyi, what are we going to do? It was not until they left the Pope's hall that Yueguan asked Ziyi curiously. Chapter 53 Sunset Forest. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The previous article was slightly modified. DouluoDalu knew the name of the fairy grass, and he also called it a fairy product. When Qiang Sunji was not around, Yu Guan directly called Xiao Yi. Teacher Yu Guan, we are going there to hunt for treasures. Teacher Yu Guan, please look. Gu Ziyi smiled when he heard this, and then took out the homemade incomplete map and handed it to Yu Guan. Oh. Treasure hunting. This is so interesting, that when Yu Guan heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up, and then he smiled and took the incomplete map from Gu Ziyi and looked at it curiously. At the first glance, Yu Guan's figure instantly stopped in place, and his hands holding the incomplete map trembled slightly. Old Yu, what's wrong? The ghost next to him saw Yu Guan's appearance and couldn't help but become curious. The fairy product among the fairy products is actually Acacia Heartbroken Red. Your Highness, is the thing on it really in the Sunset Forest? After hearing the voice of his old friend, Yu Guan came back to his senses, but he ignored the ghost and quickly grabbed Gu Ziyi's hand and asked. The reason why Yu Guan was so excited was because Gu Ziyi had painted the Acacia Heartbroken Red on it. Acacia Heartbroken Red is known as the king of flowers and the fairy among the fairy products. With Yu Guan's love for flowers, this flower is undoubtedly the most attractive to him. In the original book, he said that he would protect Xiao Wu because he found this fairy grass on her body, and the Acacia Heartbroken Red recognized Xiao Wu as its master. I found this fragment in the library. It looks very old. I also deduced the Sunset Forest. We have to find it to know whether it is the Sunset Forest, Gu Ziyi explained. Did you find it in the library? Sunset Forest, how did His Highness analyze the location in the Sunset Forest? Yu Guan became more serious after hearing this. Analyzed from the back of the fragment. Gu Ziyi replied. Hearing what Gu Ziyi said, Yu Guan quickly turned over the fragment and found that there was a pattern behind it. According to Gu Ziyi's analysis, Yu Guan understood the information on the pattern at once, and was speechless. So careless. Just based on a falling sun pattern, it is said to be the Sunset Forest. Isn't this too far-fetched? No way, except for the Sunset Forest, I can't think of any other place related to the pattern. Anyway, I must go and find it myself. Although the great worshipper said that he would help me find treasures to improve my talents, I don't want to wait. I don't know when I will wait, and I don't know if there is any. It's better to find it myself. Seeing Yu Guan's appearance, Gu Ziyi laughed in his heart, and then said with a smile. Inadvertently, he also mentioned what DouluoDalu had said to him. Although Gu Ziyi believed in Yu Guan very much, Gu Ziyi felt that it was necessary to mention DouluoDalu, so that they knew that DouluoDalu also valued them. In this way, they dared not have any small thoughts. Besides, there are so many immortal herbs in the Yin-Yang Eye of Ice and Fire, and Gu Ziyi doesn't want all of them. He only needs the best two to help him evolve his martial soul. Before, he didn't want to ask the Spirit Hall for help, but it was actually greed that made him want all the immortal herbs, but now Gu Ziyi has figured it out. He doesn't need too many immortal herbs. He just needs to get what he wants. Solving his martial soul problem as soon as possible is the most important thing. Great worshipper. Sure enough, hearing that DouluoDalu also values Gu Ziyi so much, Yu Guan and Gu'Mei's eyes suddenly changed. Yes, if there is any place related to the pattern on the back, it can only be the Sunset Forest. Don't worry, Your Highness, if there is really an immortal product there, Lao Gui and I will definitely help Your Highness get it. Yu Guan immediately assured Gu Ziyi. As long as I can see it, I will be satisfied. I am just afraid that Your Highness will be disappointed. I know that immortal products are of great benefit to soul masters, but I really don't know whether immortal products can evolve martial souls. Finally, Yu Guan also told Gu Ziyi in advance, worried that Gu Ziyi would be disappointed. Yes, I know. Teacher Yu Guan, Senior Gu'Mei, let's set off quickly. Gu Ziyi nodded slightly, and then urged Yu Guan and Gu'Mei. Yes, Your Highness. Let's set off now. Yu Guan and Gu'Mei heard what Gu Ziyi said and responded quickly. 2 days later, Gu Ziyi and his team entered the Tiando Empire. A week later, Gu Ziyi and his team came to the outside of the Sunset Forest. Finally here. Old Ghost, you are responsible for the search. I will protect His Highness. Search as His Highness said. I think His Highness is right. If the immortal items really exist, they must be hidden in places that are not easily discovered. We will look for those places that may have other worlds. Seeing the sunset forest in front of him, Yu Guan also seemed a little inexplicably excited, and then turned to Gu'e and said. Don't worry, leave it to me. Just protect His Highness. Gu'e responded expressionlessly, and then his figure flashed and turned into a black shadow and disappeared. Your Highness, let's go in and search too. Seeing that Gu'e had already gone in, Yu Guan then said to Ziyi, although he was responsible for protecting Ziyi, it was not that he stopped searching. He just paid more attention to protecting Ziyi while searching. Well, Teacher Yueguan, let's go. Naturally, Ziyi would not object, and he could not wait to find the ice and fire eyes. However, Ziyi knew that the task of finding the ice and fire eyes could only fall on Yu Guan and Gu'e, and he only had to be responsible for following them. In this way, Ziyi and Yu Guan entered the sunset forest and began to search. If the ghosts were looking in one direction, Yu Guan and Ziyi would naturally look for them in another direction. When I first entered, Yu Guan was still very easy. When we reached the depths of sunset forest, Yueguan was not so easy. After all, there are many 10,000-year soul beasts inside, so he must always be on guard. Although he was confident that he could protect Ziyi, it was always right to be careful. The second soul skill, Purification Curse. At this time, Ziyi began to put a purification spell on Yueguan. Is this the effect of the purification curse? It's really extraordinary. It actually has a certain effect on me. Feeling that his 5 senses were strengthened, Yu Guan couldn't help but praise him. However, even so, it was not all smooth sailing for Yu Guan and Ziyi in the sunset forest. There would always be reckless soul beasts coming to their door. Yu Guan didn't fight them, he just ran away with Ziyi. The two of them searched inside for several days and found nothing, until a ghostly figure suddenly found them. Lao Yu, Your Highness. I found the place. Chapter 54 Ice and Fire Immortal Grass. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Really? Old ghost, have you really found it? After hearing Gu'e's words, Yu Guan was even more excited than Ziyi, and immediately asked with wide eyes. Although Ziyi was also a little excited, he was not as unbelievable as Yu Guan, because Ziyi knew that the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire were indeed in the sunset forest. It just depended on when and whether they could find it. Now it seems that they still have some luck. Really? Gu'e just responded coldly with 2 words. Let's go, take us there. Hearing his old friend's confirmation, Yu Guan hurriedly urged, for him, whether he could get the fairy grass was not the key. Being able to see the fairy grass was a great blessing for him. I'll lead the way. Gu'e didn't say anything, but just responded briefly. Then, Gu'e put a hand on Ziyi's shoulder. At the same time, Yu Guan also put a hand on Ziyi's shoulder. Swish. Then, the two of them took Ziyi and moved forward quickly, and the direction was led by Gu'e. After Yueguan and Gu'e were together, they no longer worried about anything and went straight to the direction of the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. Even so, it took them 2 hours to reach a high mountain with dense forests. After reaching the top of the mountain, the terrain suddenly changed. What appeared in front of them was an inverted cone-shaped valley. The top of the mountain where they were was the edge of the valley. Thick hot air rose from the valley. The hot air was very humid and had a bit of the unique smell of sulfur. This valley was a bit like a crater. Below was a deep valley with no bottom, and only hot air could be seen coming out. Ordinary soul masters would definitely not easily enter such a place. Ordinary people would not even think that such a canyon would appear on a giant peak, as if it was smashed out by something. If a powerful soul master came to hunt soul beasts, he would generally sense the existence of soul beasts first, and there were obviously no soul beasts in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, so he would not go down. Weak soul masters would not dare to go down after coming up and seeing such a place. The yin-yang eye of ice and fire is hidden below. The fairy grass is right below. Let's go down. After saying that, Gu'e started to jump down. Yu Guan naturally followed and jumped down with Gu'e to protect Ziyi. In less than a moment, the 3 of them landed at the bottom of the cliff. After reaching the bottom of the cliff, Ziyi saw a small yin-yang eye of ice and fire at the first time, half of which was fiery red and half was ice blue. The billowing hot air came out of the half fiery red pool. Here. There are so many fairy products. At this time, Yu Guan's whole body was trembling. that was excitement, because after coming down, he smelled the scent of a large number of fairy products. At the same time, there was the scent of a large number of top-quality herbs. This made him almost doubt whether he was in a dream, otherwise how could there be so many top-quality flowers and plants in one place? Qilua tulip. Narcissus jade mussels and bones. 8-petal fairy orchid. Looking forward to the autumn water dew. Seeing the fairy grasses one by one, Yu Guan felt that his whole soul was trembling with excitement. Finally, when Yu Guan saw the Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum that was exactly the same as his own martial soul, plopped at Yu Guan appeared in front of the Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum in a flash, and then knelt down devoutly. Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. Huh, it's Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. I can actually see Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum. I, Yu Guan, will die with my eyes closed. Yu Guan knelt in front of the Qirong Tong Tian chrysanthemum excitedly, and wanted to touch it with his hands carefully, but he didn't dare to touch it. He was very excited and conflicted. This old guy. Gue Mei saw Yu Guan's excitement and smiled faintly. He could understand why Yu Guan was excited, but he couldn't empathize with him. Fiery apricot delicate vegetables, star aniseed black ice grass. At this time, Gu Ziyi's eyes quickly found the two most precious fairy herbs in the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire, fiery apricot delicate vegetables and star aniseed black ice grass. These two fairy herbs absorb the power of the positive pole spring water and the negative pole spring water of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire respectively. If only one of them was taken alone, they would be highly toxic poisons. Only when the two fairy herbs were taken together could they bring great benefits to the user. Teacher Yueguan, it's fiery apricot delicate vegetables and star aniseed black ice grass. They appeared together. Teacher Yueguan, you once said that if there were fairy herbs that were most likely to bring magical effects, they would be them. So I want to absorb them. Then, Gu Ziyi spoke to Yueguan. Fiery apricot delicate vegetables and star aniseed black ice grass. Yueguan stood up in surprise after hearing what Gu Ziyi said, and then saw the two fairy herbs on both sides of the yin-yang eyes of ice and fire. They actually exist at the same time. Yu Guan was extremely shocked. In his opinion, the probability of such a situation should be very, very small, or it is impossible for them to appear at the same time. These two kinds of immortal herbs usually appear in extremely hot or extremely cold places. However, Yu Guan was relieved when he thought that there were so many fairy grasses here. The occurrence of this situation was even more incredible than the simultaneous appearance of ice and fire fairy grasses. Your Highness, are you sure? These two fairy grasses are extremely poisonous when separated. Although my martial spirit tells me that taking them at the same time will be fine, but... Then Yu Guan reminded Gu Ziyi carefully. He was also afraid that something might happen to Gu Ziyi. Teacher Yueguan, can you not even believe in your own martial spirit? That when Gu Ziyi heard this, he immediately smiled and asked. That's impossible. My martial spirit tells me that there is absolutely no problem taking them at the same time. Hearing Gu Ziyi's words, Yu Guan said quickly. That's it. Teacher Yueguan, Senior Ghost. Please wait, please each of you pick one of the fairy grasses, and then throw it to me at the same time. I believe that Teacher Yueguan's martial spirit is not wrong. And I also vaguely feel that the martial soul in my body has a desire for these two fairy grasses. Gu Ziyi said decisively. As for the last sentence, it was naturally nonsense, just to make the two of them feel more at ease. Anyway, Gu Ziyi knew that as long as he absorbed the two immortal grasses of ice and fire at the same time, he would be fine. The ghost didn't answer immediately after hearing this, but just turned to look at Yueguan. He knew that Yu Guan knew these flowers and plants best, and he would only dare to do it if Yu Guan was sure that it was okay. Seeing Gu Ziyi's decisive look, Yueguan knew that Gu Ziyi was serious. Okay, since His Highness has the courage, we should accompany him. Yueguan immediately agreed. The most important thing is his trust in his martial spirit. Chapter 55 Martial Spirit Evolution. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In fact, Gu Ziyi didn't know which kind of fairy grass was best for him. If you want to eat, you must eat the best first. Eating the ice-fire immortal grass will definitely be of great benefit to you. Anyway, it's not like he could only eat 1 or 2 jelly grasses. If he really couldn't evolve his martial soul, he would just eat others. If it doesn't work, keep eating. However, Ziyi felt that the ice-fire immortal grass and his martial spirit were very compatible, because in his opinion, talismans belong to Taoist priests or immortal cultivators, the ice and fire eyes corresponding to the ice and fire immortal grass, especially the ice and fire eyes, are shaped like a Tai Chi diagram. As we all know, Tai Chi diagram is closely connected with Taoist priests and immortal cultivation. Therefore, Ziyi felt that ice-fire immortal grass might be the most suitable for his martial spirit. Your Highness, get ready. We're going to start picking. That when Ziyi stood next to the eyes of Binghuoliangyi and in the middle of the ice-fire immortal grass, Yueguan walked in front of Liehua Xingjiashu and spoke to Ziyi. At this time, the ghost was already standing in front of the 8 aniseed ice grass. Sorry for bothering you two seniors, Ziyi nodded. Old ghost, seeing this, Yueguan didn't say anything else. Instead, he called the ghost and stretched out his hand to pick the fiery apricot vegetables. As soon as Yueguan stretched out his hand, extremely hot flames ignited on the burning apricots and vegetables, seeming to drive away the offending person. Click. The same goes for Ghost. After Ghost's hand got close to the star aniseed ice grass, his hand began to freeze into ice. So strong. A plant actually has such power, that the ghost was secretly frightened, but he still managed to pick the aniseed ice grass. When he saw Yueguan throwing the fiery apricot vegetable to Ziyi, he also threw it over. Originally, he thought that the star anise ice grass had the ability to hurt people, so he should not give it to Ziyi first. Ziyi, who had been waiting for a long time, caught the ice-fire immortal grass thrown by the two men with both hands. As soon as he got the fairy grass, Ziyi felt cold and hot. And it was extremely cold and extremely hot. His hands seemed to be burned to death and frozen to death respectively. Ziyi quickly grabbed 2 fairy grasses and moved them closer together. Buzz! The moment the 2 grass jelly plants came close to each other, the deadly heat and cold on their bodies disappeared at the same time, cancelling each other out. Seeing this, Ziyi did not hesitate anymore and put the ice-fire immortal grass into his mouth. The 2 fairy grasses melted in the mouth, instantly turning into 2 streams of energy that poured into Ziyi's belly. At the same time, the power of extreme heat and cold also exploded in Ziyi's body. Ah! Ziyi immediately gritted his teeth and looked ferocious. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Sweat also began to appear on Ziyi's body. After the sweat dripped, steam rose first, and then the ground froze into ice. At this time, Ziyi just wanted to die. It was so uncomfortable, countless times more uncomfortable than saturation training. Purifying heart spell, that without thinking, Ziyi immediately affixed a prepared heart-purifying talisman to himself, and then jumped into the ice and fire eyes. Thump. Ziyi, who entered the eyes of Binghuoliangyi, quickly came to the intersection of the blazing Yangquan and the Icine Quan, and the discomfort on his body was relieved instantly. Ziyi then began to practice and began to absorb the power of refining the 2 fairy grasses. Ziyi's physical body was continuously destroyed and repaired under the 2 energies, repeating this process. In this process, the power contained in the spring water in the eyes of Binghuoliangyi also participated in it. This process is still painful, but Ziyi can endure it, and he can also use the advanced meditation technique to speed up the refining and absorption of the 2 immortal grasses. During this period, the energy of the 2 immortal grasses of ice and fire also merged into Ziyi's martial spirit. The martial soul in Ziyi's dantian, after encountering the energy of the ice-fire immortal grass, greedily absorbed it like a thirsty beast in the desert encountering a source of water. Ziyi felt happy when he sensed this scene. The martial soul is absorbing the energy of the fairy grass, which proves that it is effective. Time continued to pass while Ziyi was refining the immortal grass. Lao Yu, are you sure His Highness will be fine? Outside the eyes of Binghuoliangyi, Gue Mei saw Ziyi jumping into the spring water and asked worriedly. Don't worry, you can tell by the look on His Highness that everything is fine. Although the absorption process is a bit painful, it is absolutely fine and will only bring great benefits to His Highness. After absorbing these 2 immortal herbs, His Highness's physical body will be greatly strengthened, and the effect is far beyond that of ordinary herbs. His Highness's physique will also become invulnerable to all poisons. Unless he encounters extremely special poisons, otherwise your Highness is immune to toxins. As for whether His Highness's martial spirit can evolve, I can't guarantee it. This is also the first time I've seen jelly grass, and it's also the first time I've seen someone absorb jelly grass. Yu Guan is much calmer than Ghost, but even so, the 2 of them still firmly guarded the eyes of Binghuoliangi, and even Yueguan did not get close to those immortal grasses again. Guzi's refining process only took half a day. It was not until the ice and fire immortal grass was completely refined that Guzi emerged from the eyes of ice and fire. At this time, Guzi looked excited. In his perception, the martial soul talisman in his dantian had become very different. The originally unremarkable talisman now has a Tai Chi watermark on it. The entire talisman is also full of Taoist charm, and runes appear from time to time. Guzi then jumped out of the eyes of Binghuoliangi, and then quickly summoned his martial spirit to check. Buzz. Sure enough, the martial spirit that appeared in Guzi's hands this time was exactly the same as what he felt in his dantian, full of Taoist charm and mystery. His Highness's martial spirit has really evolved. Seeing the changes in the martial spirit in Guzi's hand, Yu Guan and Gue Mei both widened their eyes, and Yu Guan even asked directly. Yes, 2 seniors. My martial spirit has evolved. No, my martial spirit was already extraordinary. It was just effective when it was awakened. Now I have made up for the original defects and restored it to its original appearance. Guzi had a smile on his face. Sure enough, as he thought, the fiery apricot vegetables and star anise icegrass were very compatible with his martial soul. In addition to helping Guzi strengthen his physique, they also helped Guzi complete the evolution of his martial soul. In other words, it helped Guzi restore his martial spirit to its original appearance. Now the quality of his martial soul is no longer the rubbish quality of level 1 innate soul power, but has become a top-quality martial soul. The Tai Chi watermark on the talisman is not a simple watermark either. Chapter 56 Tai Chi Field. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Field of Talent. The Tai Chi watermark on the talisman is the talent field that Guzi awakened at the same time after his martial soul recovered. Guzi's talent field is called the Tai Chi field. For the time being, he can only use the first level of the Tai Chi field, which can move 1,000 pounds with 4 ounces. After expanding the Tai Chi field, a Tai Chi force field will be generated under your feet, which can transform attacks. Even if some powerful soul skills cannot be completely transformed, they can still be weakened. It can only be said that they are indeed the 2 most powerful fairy grasses. And the effect is powerful. However, in the original work, Tang San did not awaken the Tai Chi field after eating it. Guzi estimated that this Tai Chi field should have belonged to his talent field, because his Tai Chi field did not contain the attributes of ice and fire, but was just awakened by 2 immortal grasses. Come over. It's a pity that the 2 fairy grasses didn't bring any improvement to his soul power level. He is still only at level 20 now. However, Guzi was already very satisfied that Wuhun had truly awakened. Okay, no matter what, as long as your highness succeeds. Yu Guan was also happy for Guzi when he heard this. He could feel that the martial soul in Guzi's hand was not simple at this time. It was no longer of the same rubbish quality as before, so future training would no longer be a problem for Guzi. He and Guzi had a teacher-student relationship. Unlike Bibi Dong, who only taught a little bit about medicinal herbs, Guzi's future potential has greatly increased, which is also a good thing for him. Thanks to the 2 seniors, I was able to find these immortal grasses and complete the evolution of my martial soul. There are so many fairy grasses here, everyone who sees them has a share. Let the 2 teachers each choose a fairy grass. As for the rest, we will take it back. After Guzi glanced at the remaining fairy grass, he spoke to Yu Guan and Gue Mei. They helped them find the fairy grass, and they won't be stingy. As for the rest, Guzi definitely couldn't choose to keep it all to himself. As a disciple of the Pope, he had asked Qian Xuanji to send people to help him get these immortal herbs, so he must have contributed some of them. Your Highness, are you serious? Hearing Guzi's words, Yu Guan suddenly burst into surprise. When he came here this time, he was very satisfied to be able to see so many fairy grasses with his own eyes. However, he would definitely be more satisfied if he could get a piece of fairy grass, especially the strange antler grass among them, which he longed for from the bottom of his heart. As for his love for fairy grass, his favorite is undoubtedly the fairy acacia heartbroken red among the immortals. However, when it comes to which fairy grass he wants, he must be looking for the strange velvet celestial chrysanthemum. Of course, Teacher Yueguan can choose now, but I think what Teacher Yueguan wants must be that strange velvet-toothed chrysanthemum, right? Ziyi smiled calmly. That's right, since His Highness said so, I won't be polite. Thank you for the reward, Your Highness. Yueguan's face was slightly red and he looked extremely excited. Thank you for the reward, Your Highness. The ghost also thanked him at this time. After witnessing the evolution of Ziyi's martial soul, he also understood the preciousness of these fairy grasses, and his tone was somewhat excited. Lao Yu, I leave it to you to choose my fairy grass. Afterwards, DongI'm also turned around and directly handed over the task of selecting the fairy grass to Yueguan, because he believes that Yueguan can help him choose the one that suits him best. If he were left to do it by himself, he wouldn't know which one to choose. Of course, no problem, I'll take care of it. Hearing this, Yueguan winked at the ghost and said with a smile. Your Highness, I also give you a gift. At this time, Yueguan suddenly turned to Ziyi and said, while speaking, Yueguan also took out a soul guidance device. This is a soul guidance device that can accommodate living creatures. It can be used by His Highness to store the remaining fairy grass. It was an exquisite bracelet-shaped soul guide. For a person like Yueguan who loves flowers, his favorite thing is a soul guidance device that can store living things and keep them active. This soul guidance device was also collected by him with great difficulty. Thank you, Teacher Yueguan. But when Ziyi heard this, he immediately accepted it without politeness. He did have a soul guide. Qian Xuanji had given him one a long time ago, but there really wasn't one that could accommodate living creatures. Old ghost, this flower from the other side of the underworld matches your martial spirit very well. You want this one? Seeing Ziyi accept it, Yueguan felt a little sick, but he quickly turned around and picked out a fairy grass for DongI'm. It was a blood-colored flower from the other side, coquettish and evil. Old ghost, you need to use blood as a guide for this flower on the other side of the underworld. Only after it drinks blood can you pick it. Yueguan also explained the picking method to the ghost. There are special methods for picking many jelly grasses. If the method is wrong, the jelly grass will be directly destroyed. The ghost didn't say much after hearing this, and quickly came to the flower of the other side of the underworld, and then cut his finger to feed it with blood. The ghost didn't pick it until the other party had drunk enough and was filled with blood. Old ghost, you need to absorb it first, and I'll protect you. Seeing this, Yueguan quickly urged, after picking the fairy grass, it is naturally better to absorb it as quickly as possible, unless it is stored away with a soul guide that can preserve its activity. No need for you to rush. DongI'm replied lightly, and then imitated Ziyi's example and began to refine the flowers of the other side of the underworld. Of course, he didn't learn to jump into the eyes of ice and fire. Even if he stood outside the ice and fire eyes, he could still feel the terror of the ice and fire eyes. The spring water was not accessible to ordinary people. Teacher Yueguan, look at Senior Ghost, I'll collect the other fairy herbs. After Ziyi said something to Yueguan, he went to harvest the remaining fairy grass. Yes, if your highness forgets how to pick some special grass jelly, just ask me. Yueguan did not forget to remind. Don't worry, I'll remember it all. Ziyi smiled when he heard this, and then turned around to pick the remaining fairy grass, Chiloa tulip, the fairy grass that can help the 7 treasures glazed pagoda evolve into the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. Take it, coxcomb phoenix sunflower, the fairy grass that can solve the flaws of the evil fire phoenix spirit, is taken. The fairy herbs that appeared in the original work were picked and stored one by Ziyi. There were also several fairy grasses that did not appear in the original work but had reached the fairy level, and they were all collected by Ziyi. These were probably not used by Tang San after harvesting them. Anyway, Tang San must have harvested them. Not even a single one was left for Douluo. In the end, except for the velvet babel chrysanthemum that was not picked, the only one left was the acacia heartbroken red, which is the king of flowers. The picking method of acacia heartbroken red is the most special, and you need to accept its test. Ziyi tried to put a drop of blood on it, and his mind instantly recalled the original Tangyuehua. A few scenes also showed the egret's long legs, followed closely by the cute and savage Bibi Dong. Chapter 57 Overconfidence. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Well, Ziyi failed to extract it in the end. He is not an innocent person, he even spit out a mouthful of blood due to the backlash. In the end, Ziyi could only take it away together with the rooted Wuju stone and wait for its destined person. It seems that His Highness is not an innocent person, Yu Guan, who was watching from a distance, muttered secretly when he saw this scene. However, he also felt that it might be because Ziyi was still young and didn't have anyone he liked yet, so failure was normal. Half an hour later, DongI'm completed absorbing the fairy grass. I saw the ghost at this time. The black ghostly aura exuding from his body was mixed with traces of bright red, and he looked more and more evil and weird. My soul power level has actually increased by 1 level. That the ghost who opened his eyes and stood up was also full of surprises. In addition to the soul power level, he also felt that his martial soul seemed to have evolved a bit. Although not much, it did evolve a bit. Now his martial spirit has more bloodthirsty abilities. In short, he was very satisfied with the effectiveness of the grass jelly. Upgraded by 1 level, then your current level of 89 is 1 level higher than mine. Old ghost, it's my turn now. When Yueguan heard the ghost's words, he couldn't wait immediately. Then, Yuguan walked to the last piece of fairy grass, the strange and velvet giant chrysanthemum. Looking at the strange velvet-toothed chrysanthemum in front of him, Yuguan's eyes were a little obsessed and a little reluctant to part with it, but in the end Yuguan still picked it off. Afterwards, it was Yuguan's turn to start absorbing and refining. Yuguan's absorption was much slower than that of Ghost, lasting for a full hour. During this period of time, Yuguan's body was constantly glowing with golden light, complementing the martial spirit appearing behind him. Ha ha ha, old ghost, I am also level 89. And my martial spirit is 1 step closer. I feel that not only can I become a title Douluo in the future, I can also go further. After absorbing the fairy grass, Yuguan stood up and burst out laughing, obviously very excited. He could feel that his martial spirit had become more perfect, and now his martial spirit could be considered a true attack-type martial spirit. Although he was an offensive soul master in the past, his attack power was relatively weak, but it is different now. Congratulations to the 2 seniors on your great achievement. I don't think I should have accompanied me on this trip. I also hope that the 2 seniors can break through the title of Douluo and ascend to the position of elders as soon as possible. Seeing Yuguan locked up, Ziyi also smiled happily and congratulated. Ziyi is also very happy that these 2 can be promoted. This is all thanks to His Highness. If it weren't for your Highness, we wouldn't have known about this place. Yuguan knew that he and DongI'm were just lucky. Now that teacher Yueguan has absorbed the fairy grass, let's go back. Ziyi nodded slightly and said nothing more. Yes, your Highness. Ziyi and his party then returned to Wuhun Hall. As for the treasure land of ice and fire eyes, no treasures can be produced for the time being. It depends on Qian Xuanji how to deal with it. Ziyi had already filled a lot of ice and fire spring water, so he would just fill it up again when he was done with it. I believe that this treasure land will belong to Wuhun Palace from now on. Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus sect. Yu Xiaojiang stood up from the bathtub full of precious herbs and felt the increase in soul power in his body. Yu Xiaojiang was very satisfied. Now he is only 11 years old, and his soul power level has been raised to level 16. In just 3 years, he has been raised from level 4 to level 16, which is an increase of 12 levels. Yu Xiaojiang is very satisfied. This kind of cultivation speed is not slow at all, although this speed of cultivation is achieved by relying on the sect's massive accumulation of resources, but he is the son of the sect leader, and there is nothing wrong with enjoying the sect's resources. Identity is also his advantage. If I continue at this rate, I will definitely be able to break through to level 29 before I'm 30. No. I should say that before I turn 20, I will definitely be able to break through to level 29, and then there will be at least 10 years left for me. I don't believe that in 10 years, I won't be able to break through to level 30. The bottleneck. If the innate soul power of level 1 cannot break the shackles of level 30, it's up to me to break it. After secretly encouraging himself, Yu Xiaojiang changed his clothes and went outside. "Uncle Yao, how's the matter I asked you to inquire about?" After coming out, Yu Xiaojiang asked an old man guarding the door. The old man is the sect servant responsible for taking care of him. "Young master, I have already heard the latest news." That when the old man heard that Yu Xiaojiang had arrived and asked, he immediately bent down and answered. "Really? Then tell me." Yu Xiaojiang's expression was shocked when he heard this, and he quickly urged. "Yes, young master. The two people the young master asked me to inquire about, their current soul power levels are level 33 Soul Master and level 20 Great Soul Master respectively." That the old servant did not dare to neglect, and quickly told Yu Xiaojiang the information he had learned. That's right, what Yu Xiaojiang asked him to inquire about was the soul power levels of the two disciples of the Pope of Wuhun Palace. This is not the first time that Yu Xiaojiang has asked him to inquire. In the past few years, Yu Xiaojiang has paid special attention to the situation of Bibi Dong in Ziyi. The reason why he pays attention to Bibi Dong is because Bibi Dong has unparalleled talent and happens to be 1 year older than him, so he wants to know what it is like for a person with such top talent to practice. Although he was hit hard every time by the news and felt deeply unfair, Yu Xiaojiang still continued to pay attention, but what he is most concerned about is Ziyi's soul power level, because Ziyi, like him, has level 1 innate soul power. "Are you level 33? You are indeed the owner of twin martial souls." Regarding Bibi Dong's soul power level, Yu Xiaojiang could only sigh sourly. Did Ziyi finally break through level 20? It still maintains a speed of 2 levels a year. Based on the innate soul power level 1 talent, it is already very fast. But now I'm faster. Then there is Ziyi's. Yu Xiaojiang used to marvel at how quickly Ziyi upgraded, but now he feels that Ziyi's upgrade is a bit slow because he is not as good as him. This made Yu Xiaojiang feel a little proud, and at the same time he was even more dissatisfied. How could you be accepted as a disciple by the Pope of Wuhun Palace with your qualifications? Is it really like what Father and others said, that the Pope of Wuhun Palace did this just to win people's hearts? However, no matter what, it is a fact that Ziyi is a disciple of the Pope, so Yu Xiaojiang wanted to prove that he was better than the Pope's disciples. It's almost time. In 2 years, I will be able to catch up with his level. I will definitely become the first soul master to break through the shackles of level 30. After learning that Ziyi's cultivation speed had not improved much, Yu Xiaojiang felt excited. He didn't care whether his soul power level was accumulated by consuming a lot of resources, as long as he could surpass Ziyi. Moreover, his fast cultivation speed also made him confident about his future. Chapter 58: A Huge Surprise. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Your Highness, that place is very strange. I just remembered now that none of those flowers and plants are soul beasts. Especially those fairy grasses, they are not soul beasts. It's so strange. On the way back to Wuhun City, Yu Guan suddenly remembered something and spoke to Ziyi with a look of shock. It's really weird. As soon as Yu Guan finished speaking, Gu'ei quickly echoed. Maybe that place is special. Ziyi couldn't explain this either. Logically speaking, this situation should not have occurred. If there is a reasonable explanation, it can only be said that the remaining dragon power of the Ice Dragon King and the Fire Dragon King in the eyes of the Ice and Fire Liangyi suppressed those immortal grasses, preventing them from giving birth to souls and becoming soul beasts. And they only had a little spirituality, the immortal grass that grows up again after 10,000 years will all be soul beasts, which means that the remaining dragon power of the Ice and Fire Dragon King has been exhausted by then, but these Ziyi couldn't explain to the two of them, because there was no record of the Ice and Fire Eyes being formed after the death of the Ice and Fire Dragon King. Ziyi also knew about it because of his previous life, and after absorbing the Ice and Fire immortal grass, Ziyi also dived under the eyes of Ice and Fire Liangyi to investigate, but found nothing. He originally thought that there would be the remains of the Ice and Fire Dragon King inside, but there was nothing there, only the Ice and Fire Eyes. When Yu Guan and Gu'ei heard what Ziyi said, they could only accept this explanation. If Ziyi could explain clearly, they would be even more surprised. A week later, they returned to Wuhun Hall. His Majesty the Pope. Fortunately, we have successfully assisted His Highness in finding the treasure. Yu Guan immediately responded to Qian Xuanji. Oh. Did you really find it? Yu Guan, your cultivation level, and Gue Mei's, the cultivation level of both of you has actually improved. Qiang Sunji, who originally thought that Gu Zi and the others were returning home in vain, was immediately surprised when he heard Yu Guan's words. After standing up, Qiang Sunji quickly felt the changes in Yu Guan and Gue Mei, and couldn't help but feel even more surprised. After going out, Yu Guan and Gue Mei actually improved together. What about his disciples? Qian Xuanji quickly set his sights on Gu Zi, but unfortunately he didn't feel any changes in Gu Zi's cultivation. However, he was still keenly aware that the martial spirit aura on Gu Zi's body seemed to be a little different. Yes, teacher. We found it, and my martial spirit also successfully awakened for the second time, fully awakening to what it should look like. Gu Zi also stepped forward and spoke at this time. As for the change in his martial soul, Gu Zi was talking about a second awakening, a complete awakening, because that's what he thought. If it were really a trash martial spirit, his self-condensing spirit ring wouldn't have soul skills, and it wouldn't be so special. Real? Quick, let me see it quickly. Upon hearing Gu Zi's words, Qian Xuanji instantly forgot about the improvement of Yu Guan and Gue Mei's cultivation, and quickly asked Gu Zi to summon the martial spirit for him to see. Buzz. Gu Zi didn't waste any time and immediately summoned his martial spirit. Qian Xuanji immediately saw the changed talisman. Not only was there a Tai Chi watermark on it, but also runes appeared from time to time. The entire talisman shone with a faint golden light, exuding a mysterious Taoist charm. When Qian Xuanji saw Gu Zi's current martial soul, he could clearly feel that his disciple's current martial soul was no longer of junk quality, but no different from those top-quality martial souls. Okay. Qian Xuanji, who discovered this, immediately applauded. The disciple's martial spirit turned out to be so good, how could Qian Xuanji be unhappy? Teacher, after my martial spirit is fully awakened, I have also awakened my own talent field. Seeing Qian Xuanji so happy made Gu Zi feel very good. Judging from the situation in the past few years, although he, as a teacher, somewhat ignored his existence and valued Bibi Dong more, he was still qualified as a teacher and treated Gu Zi very well. So Gu Zi later revealed the fact that he had awakened his talent field, and now Gu Zi is no longer afraid of exposing this, the awakening of his talent field will only make Qian Xuanji value him more. Now that he has joined Wuhun Hall, Gu Zi definitely hopes to gain more in Wuhun Hall, so it is necessary to show his value. Tai Chi Field. After Gu Zi finished speaking, he directly released his talent field, and a Tai Chi force field was quickly formed under his feet. A Tai Chi pattern with a diameter of 10 meters appeared at Gu Zi's feet, turning slowly. Field of Talent. Your Highness has actually awakened his talent field. When Gu Zi's Tai Chi realm appeared, not only Qian Xuanji was surprised, but Yu Guan and Gue Mei were also shocked. It was only at this time that they learned that Gu Zi had awakened his talent field. Looking at Gu Zi's talent field, both of them had burning eyes. Talent field, it would be great if they could also awaken their own talent field. After thinking that they still had martial soul fusion skills that belonged to both of them, the two of them felt better. After all, their martial soul fusion skills, the two-pole static realm, are also a type of realm. Haha, good. Xiao Yi, you've given me another big surprise. Tell me about your talent field, and then tell me about your experience this time. Qiang Sunji couldn't suppress the corners of his mouth that were raised at this time, and his face was full of excitement. The disciple who was originally thought to have poor talent for cultivation suddenly became a genius. How could he not be excited? Yes, teacher, Gu Zi responded, and then first talked about his Tai Chi field, and finally started to talk about the experience of this trip. Qiang Sunji knew that Gu Zi and his team not only really found the precious herbs recorded in the incomplete map this time, but also so many. The improvement of Yu Guan and Gue Mei's cultivation was also because they absorbed a fairy grass each. Qiang Sunji had no dissatisfaction with Gu Zi's behavior of allocating fairy grass to the two, especially Yu Guan. If Yu Guan hadn't taught Gu Zi so much plant knowledge, Gu Zi wouldn't know the preciousness of the incomplete map, so Yu Guan was completely entitled to a fairy grass. Besides, the immortal herb is the same Qirong Tongtianju as Yu Guan's martial soul. If the Wuhun Hall gets it from other places, the first thing to consider is to give it to Yueguan. As for Guimei, it is also completely worth it. The two of them have martial soul fusion skills, and it is best to make progress together. He has always valued Yueguan and Guimei. Now that the two have benefited from his disciples, it is also a good thing for him, and the two will definitely be more loyal. Is it that Xiaoyi still has a lot of immortal herbs on you? Are there any suitable for your senior sister? Finally, Qiang Sunji asked Gu Zi with shining eyes. Chapter 59 Ice Muscle and Jade Bone. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Judging from Qian Xuanji's reaction, it is not difficult to see that he still values Bibi Dong more. Whenever there is something good, he thinks of Bibi Dong first. However, Gu Zi didn't react much to this. Qian Xuanji originally valued Bibi Dong more, and even if his talent improved now, it would be difficult to change this. Yes, teacher. With 2 fairy grasses, it is very suitable for senior sister. Gu Zi answered with a smile, and then Gu Zi was about to take out the fairy grass. Teacher, is junior brother back? But before Gu Zi could bring out the fairy grass and introduce it, Bibi Dong came in at this moment. Junior brother. Then Bibi Dong saw Gu Zi and quickly shouted with joy. Sister! Your Highness the Saint! Your Highness the Saint! Seeing Bibi Dong come in, Gu Zi could only stop taking out the fairy grass. Yuguan and Guimei also hurriedly saw Bibi Dong. Snort! Damn it, you didn't ask me to come with you when you went to find the treasure. Bibi Dong, who was originally full of joy, soon changed her face again, and snorted angrily at Gu Zi. How's it going? Did you find the treasure? After expressing his dissatisfaction, Bibi Dong asked with concern. Of course, and I found a lot of them, and I also brought back treasures suitable for senior sister. Gu Zi smiled. Bibi Dong came at the right time. Buzz. Then Gu Zi showed off the bracelet in his hand, a faint golden light flashed on it, and Gu Zi took out 2 fairy grasses. One of them was completely snow-white with blood-red petals. It was the snow-colored swan kiss that Tang San threw into the slaughter city and destroyed it in the original novel. Bibi Dong's twin martial souls, whether they are the Death Spider Emperor or the Soul-Eating Spider Emperor, are all poisonous. Bibi Dong's poison can be said to be the most powerful among Douluo. The 100,000-year-old Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape were poisoned to death by Bibi Dong, or they were almost poisoned and there was no cure. So I chose to sacrifice it to Tang San. This shows how powerful Bibi Dong's poison is. And the effect of the snow-colored swan kiss is to breed poison 1,000 times. I believe it will be of great benefit to Bibi Dong's martial spirit. On the way back, Yuguan also suggested this to Gu Zi. At the same time, Yuguan also told Gu Zi that it is not advisable to eat too much jelly grass, and you cannot take 2 kinds at the same time in a short period of time, because the effects of the medicine will affect each other, unless they complement each other. Such as the ice and fire fairy grass that Gu Zi ate. Therefore, if Gu Zi wants to absorb another fairy grass, it will take half a year at the earliest. Senior sister, this is a snow-colored swan kiss. Gu Zi first introduced the snow-colored swan kiss, first introduced the benefits it might bring to Bibi Dong, and finally said, however, it has a hidden danger, which may greatly enhance the toxicity of senior sister's martial spirit, causing senior sister to be unable to if you control it. You may also be poisoned, so keep this fairy grass for senior sister first and talk about it later. Gu Zi has not forgotten that Dugu Bo's son was poisoned to death by his martial arts poison, and Dugu Bo was almost poisoned by his own poison. Although the snow-colored swan kiss would only increase the quantity of the poison but not its toxicity, Gu Zi was also worried that quantitative changes would lead to qualitative changes. Can't control the poison of your own martial soul. After hearing Gu Zi's words, everyone present was slightly stunned. This was the first time they heard this statement, especially Yuguan. He really doesn't know this, however, he trusted Gu Zi's knowledge. Since Gu Zi said so, it must make sense, or Gu Zi had seen it somewhere. So after listening to Gu Zi's words, he immediately thought of Dugu Bo, who had a lot of grievances with him, and his eyes seemed to be getting greener and greener. Could it be caused by the inability to control one's own poison? If so, then I must laugh at that old poisoner next time. This strain is very suitable for senior sister to absorb now. It is called Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone. After taking it, it can nourish the muscles and bones, and the chi can connect the 8 extraordinary meridians, creating a body with ice muscles and jade bones. If senior sister takes it, she will not say anything how much enhancement, but it can definitely become more beautiful. Ignoring the reactions of others, Ziyi then introduced another fairy grass, Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone, which can bring a lot of improvement in the soul power level of the user. It's just that it doesn't seem to have any benefit to the martial soul, it only improves the soul master himself. Almost all soul masters are suitable, and girls are more suitable, especially for Bibi Dong. Her twin martial souls are top-notch. So there is no need to evolve, and they may not evolve much. It is more important to improve her soul power and physical fitness. I want this. Junior brother, give this to me. After listening to Ziyi's introduction, especially after hearing that Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones could make her more beautiful, Bibi Dong's eyes instantly lit up, and she directly ignored the snow-colored swan and kissed her. Looking at the Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones, after saying that, Bibi Dong reached out and grabbed it. For you. Ziyi smiled slightly and let Bibi Dong snatch it from his hand. Hee, thank you junior brother. Bibi Dong grabbed it and immediately beamed. Junior brother, how do you use this? Only eat the petals, and finally suck the pistil. Use your soul power to absorb and refine it. Ziyi said, this fairy grass cannot be eaten in its entirety. Yeah. Then I'll eat. After hearing this, Bibi Dong immediately wanted to pick off the petals and eat them. After plucking a petal, my hand stopped there before I put it in my mouth. Junior brother, have you found the treasure you need? How is your martial spirit doing now? Only then did Bibi Dong remember that she hadn't asked Ziyi about her situation, so she quickly stopped what she was doing. Don't worry, eat it. My martial spirit has been fully awakened, and it is now a top-notch martial spirit. Ziyi didn't expect Bibi Dong to stop what he was doing at this time, and then smiled warmly. With that said, Ziyi also summoned his martial spirit again. Wow. It's actually true. That's great, junior brother, you are so awesome. Bibi Dong cheered when she saw the fully awakened martial spirit in Ziyi's hand. While she was happy for Ziyi, Bibi Dong also admired Ziyi from the bottom of her heart for actually solving her own problem of low talent. It's incredible. Okay, just eat what I gave you. Ziyi turned his hand and put away the martial spirit. Yeah, then I'm not welcome. Only then did Bibi Dong feel relieved. Then she put the petals of Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone into her mouth and ate them. Qian Xuanji watched from the side and did not stop him. He still believed that Ziyi would not harm Bibi Dong. Since Ziyi gave it to Bibi Dong, it must be beneficial to Bibi Dong. Besides, Yu Guan, who was more familiar with flowers and plants, didn't say anything, so he was even less worried. Chapter 60 upgraded to 6 levels in a row. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After Bibi Dong ate the petals first, she took the remaining stamens in her mouth and sucked them with her soul power. Watching Bibi Dong's small mouth movements, Ziyi couldn't help but think of the scene that flashed in his mind when he tried to pick the acacia heartbroken red. As we all know, probably because of their soul power, the people of Douluo continent, just like the people on the European and American side of the earth, develop very rapidly physically. Bibi Dong, who is already 12 years old, is already slim and developed in all aspects. She is no different from a girl of 17 or 18 years old, which is when she is most attractive, but Ziyi then put his inner thoughts behind him. He has now become a disciple of the Pope and his martial spirit has been fully awakened, so he doesn't need to hold his thigh anymore. Between you and Bibi Dong, just let nature take its course. There is no need to tease her now. For him, improving his strength is more important. After Bibi Dong ate the Narcissus Jade Muscles and Bones, she began to meditate on the spot to absorb and refine them. This process was not short, but Qian Xuanji and the others were not in a hurry and kept watching. Who knows if there will be any accidents in the middle, but everyone is still very nervous about Bibi Dong. Buzz. Until Bibi Dong completely completed the absorption and opened her eyes. Wow. I've been upgraded, teacher, junior brother. I was promoted to level 6 in one fell swoop. Now I'm level 39. After opening her eyes, Bibi Dong jumped for joy immediately, unable to believe that she had improved so much. What? Upgraded to 6 levels. Although he had already sensed Bibi Dong's improvement in cultivation, Qian Xuanji was also shocked when he heard that Bibi Dong had been promoted to 6 levels. Afterwards, Qian Xuanji hurriedly came to Bibi Dong, reached out and grabbed her wrist and carefully explored it. Bibi Dong has improved too much all of a sudden. He must check it out clearly, because sometimes improving too much at once may not be a good thing. It wasn't until he discovered that Bibi Dong had no problem at all, and that her physique had been greatly enhanced, that Qian Xuanji breathed a sigh of relief. Then Qian Xuanji thought that since both Yuguan and Guimei could improve their cultivation by 1 level, it was normal for Bibi Dong's soul power level to increase so much. He was just frightened by Bibi Dong's improvement in levels just now. Okay. As expected of the fairy grass, it turns out that there are such precious treasures of heaven, materials and earth on this continent. Qian Xuanji then laughed, truly seeing the power of the fairy grass. Bibi Dong has directly saved 2 years of training time. Congratulations to your highness the saint. Yuguan also congratulated Bibi Dong at this time. He was also a little surprised. The effect of fairy grass was even more powerful than he knew. Sister, congratulations. Ziyi also said with a smile at this time. Ziyi was not surprised at all that Bibi Dong had been promoted to level 6 all of a sudden. In the original work, Zhu Zhuqin was promoted to 7 levels after eating it, while Bibi Dong was only promoted to 6 levels. I think it was because Bibi Dong's level was a little higher at this time, and level 39 to level 40 was a big breakthrough. It was normal for Bibi Dong not to directly break through to level 40. Yeah, junior brother, thank you. Bibi Dong also expressed her gratitude to Ziyi happily. By the way, junior brother, you also took the fairy grass, right? So what's your current level? Then Bibi Dong curiously asked about Ziyi's current soul power level. After all, she has improved so much, and Ziyi also ate the fairy grass, so she must have improved a lot. Yes, Xiaoyi, what is your current soul power level? Qian Xuanji also remembered that he had never asked Ziyi's soul power level, and quickly asked out of curiosity. Teacher, senior sister. Although I also ate jelly grass, the jelly grass I ate did not improve my cultivation level. I am still at level 20 now. Ziyi replied. No wonder I didn't sense your improvement in cultivation. Qian Xuanji nodded when he heard this, which was why he didn't ask Ziyi's soul power level just now. It seems that these fairy grasses have their own magical effects. Not all fairy grasses can improve one's cultivation. Yes, teacher. Teacher, these are the remaining fairy grasses. I want to keep 2 of them and leave the rest to the teacher. Ziyi nodded, and then summoned all the fairy grass from the soul guide at once. In an instant, more than a dozen fairy grasses appeared one by one, each one emitting a faint halo, showing their extraordinariness. There are actually so many. Qian Xuanji's eyes suddenly widened when he saw so many fairy grasses that Ziyi had brought out. He now knew how precious the fairy grass was, and it was more precious than ordinary soul bones. But now that Ziyi had taken out so much at once, even he felt like he had been hit by a huge treasure. Okay, you can keep what you want. Later, Qian Xuanji did not reject Ziyi's kindness, and he was very pleased that Ziyi was willing to hand over the treasure. It seems that he is a very good disciple and knows how to be grateful. Originally, he wanted to take it all back, but after seeing Ziyi's initiative, he agreed. Yes, thank you teacher. I'll just keep these 2. Ziyi said happily, and then Ziyi chose 2 of the fairy grasses and took them back to himself. They are the 8-petal fairy orchid and Wangchuan autumn water dew. 8-petal fairy orchid is the most gentle, mellow and easily absorbed fairy grass. No matter what kind of martial spirit it is, the soul master can absorb it. Ziyi didn't need other effects, because he already had the fire and ice immortal grass in his body, and it was difficult for other immortal grasses to work on him. The 8-petal immortal orchid was the most suitable to use to enhance soul power. Seeing through the autumn water dew can improve mental strength and temper eyesight, and he can also use it. Ziyi didn't ask for much, he only took what he could absorb. The king of flowers is certainly the best, but if it cannot be used, it is just a display for Ziyi. It is better not to take it. It is not good to be too greedy. I believe that these fairy grasses will not be easily used after entering the Wuhun Palace's treasure house. If Ziyi really needs it in the future, he can just ask Qian Xuanji for help. Teacher, these fairy grasses need to be stored with soul guides that can retain their activity. After Ziyi took back the 2 plants he left behind, he quickly reminded Qian Xuanji. Qiang Sunji nodded when he heard this, then waved his hand and put away all the fairy grass. Obviously Qian Xuanji has that kind of soul guidance device. Yu Guan, later you hand over the characteristics and usage of these immortal grasses. As well as your knowledge of flowers and plants, write a copy when you have time. I am going to include it in the library. After putting away the fairy grass, Qian Xuanji gave instructions to Yu Guan again. After knowing how precious the fairy grass is, he will definitely not ignore it anymore. Yes, Your Majesty the Pope, Yu Guan responded excitedly. He is also honored to be able to write a book and place it in the library, and it is also a very happy thing for him to let more people know more flowers and plants. However, Yu Guan obviously overthought it. Ordinary flowers and plants were fine. Qian Xuanji would definitely not let too many people know about things like fairy grass. He just wanted to keep a copy. Well, there is also DongI'm's soul power level and Xiao Yi's situation, which will be kept secret for the time being. Qian Xuanji nodded, and then gave instructions to Yu Guan and Gui Mei. Every time Bibi Dong was promoted in the past, he intentionally or unintentionally leaked the news to outsiders, but this time Bibi Dong had improved too much all at once, so Qian Xuanji thought it would be better to hide it for a while. P.S. Don't worry, Yu Xiaojiang will definitely not be able to see the information on the fairy grass. Unless Bibi Dong fell in love with Yu Xiaojiang without thinking again, Yu Xiaojiang would not be able to see the more confidential things in Wuhun Palace. The author will not arrange such a disgusting plot.